I remember just like sitting there and being like, oh, I didn't hit my goal. I didn't do that well against that goal. But that was like, but I'm really having a good time. And I'm like, this is actually opening up some crazy doors I never realized.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Careers 2.0. This week, I had a pleasure to talk with Mark Bone. Mark is an amazing filmmaker. Let it be enough to say that he worked with brands like Nike, BMW, or CNN. He started his career in humanitarian work in East Africa. And that's where the passion from documentaries and filmmaking came from. But we didn't talk much about it because for me, the most interesting part is how he transitioned from being a filmmaker, documentarian, to being an online entrepreneur. We talked about productizing yourself and monetizing your knowledge, how to do it, what platforms to use, and what is the best way to build a huge community of people passionate about a thing that you are. But first, as we recorded it a couple days after the Super Bowl, I had to ask him about his favorite Super Bowl ads. Hi, Mark. Thanks for talking with me.
Hey, yeah, no, good to see you as well.
Listen, I hope you'll forgive me the first question, but we are recording this right after the Super Bowl, and a huge part of Super Bowl and of the cultural phenomena that it is of course the ads, right? So I never talked with anybody with your particular portfolio, so I really want to know any Super Bowl ads that stick out in your memory historically.
I always found there was this one Bud Light one with these nights where they were like, what was the premise? They would talk. They were like ripping on every other beer company for brewing with like extra ingredients. And I wish I remember the line, but I remember like it was so funny. I like the second the Super Bowl was done, I went onto the internet and like went and found that and watched it again.
Yeah, I literally do it after every Super Bowl, like the compilation of the best ads. I think for me it must be the Betty White one with Snickers. I think it was.
That was good. No, the Betty White one was good. The problem is we're in Canada, and Canada has some of the worst ads like in the world. And so we get just a few of the American ads, and then the rest is like really mediocre Canadian banking ads and like just like mortgage ads. And it's always. So I don't even, last night when I watched the Super Bowl, I just didn't even watch the ads because I was like, I'll just go onto the internet tomorrow and watch all the American ads because now I'm stuck watching like TD Bank ads in Canada, and they're painful.
You mentioned the mediocre ads. What makes a great ad then?
I think a great ad makes you forget that you're watching an ad. Like that the product is obviously present, it has to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a great ad is just enjoyable to watch and doesn't feel like a company is trying to send you a variety of signals, whether it be like their like that their product is the best or that they believe in certain things. It's right now it feels like every company has almost forgotten about like what they actually do and the feeling that their product gives you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's either just too high on the technical, or to be honest, it's funny because I love making films that explore morality and justice and different difficult situations, but I feel like every company right now, their only mandate is just a series of some sort of ideological perspectives, which is it's totally okay, but at a certain point I'm like, what does your product do? Like, I understand what you stand for, but help me understand your product, or help me understand like what this product will do for my life. And so I know I'm kind of talking a bit ambiguous, but the advertising seems to be in a confusing place right now where every brand seems to be having a bit of an identity crisis.
Do you think it's like that the only attempt is to be memorable, be mentioned, go viral, rather than actually offer some value of their product?
I remember like I've left ads, so I don't know how much authority I have to kind of talk about this, but when I was when I used to do a lot of work and direct a lot of advertising, it was interesting because I came from a really small but scrappy agency called Studio M here in Canada, and what they were known for was this really one of the most viral videos ever at the time. So that ad had done really well, and then every company or every brand rather that approached us says like, we want the WestJet Blue Santa video for our company. And it's a good thing to want to go quote viral, like, or maybe not necessarily is a good thing, but it's aspiring to want your video to do well. But then to make that the only goal, I think you forget about doing good work. And I even had this realization recently where I was really focused on advertising our academy recently. I was like, oh, I was focusing like, got to get the videos, my YouTube videos better, got to figure this out, just getting stressful. And then at a certain moment I was like, okay, traditionally my channel has done really well with me not feeling like I have to do that much work for it. And I realized what's happened is I began focusing in the recent months on trying to be successful, where in the past I just made the videos that I found most enjoyable. And I think what's so cool about YouTube and some of these places is that expression of enjoyment, like that comes through and people want to be present into that. Like I just watched a 45-minute video this weekend of a guy rebuilding an arcade machine in his like apartment.
Yeah.
And it was so technical, I didn't understand half of it, but he was so passionate about it and was so into it and so detailed. Half of the video, I just enjoyed watching him enjoy this process. And so that's where I'm like asking myself to come back around to advertising is like, if the brand and the audience aren't enjoying the experience, then that can be a great place to start to say, okay, maybe we need to pull back. Maybe our goals that we're trying to express through this are misplaced, or not necessarily misplaced, but maybe we actually need to focus on the experience of this ad rather than just hitting all of our goals. Because when people leave a movie theater or they turn off a TV, they more so remember how they felt versus what they actually saw. And so I guess that's the question is like, how are you making people feel? And to check it, make it like a box that you're checking. That's when it becomes, it can get a bit pedantic and it can feel disingenuous.
You talk about storytelling a lot. Is that sort of the core of where the emotions come from? Whether it's a commercial or a documentary or maybe YouTube video, is the storytelling of the author that somehow leaves the emotions in the viewers, or there is something more to it?
Yeah, I think without desire, you're left with an assumption of what people are feeling. And what I mean is desire is this unique emotion we have as humans, which pulls us towards something. It's wanting something. And desire, I think, is more rather than, because wanting can be like, I want pizza. I want to, I want more money. It's like these can just be really quick things. But when you desire something, it feels to embody more of you holistically. So I would say without desire in a film, which is kind of the place where stories start, someone wants something, they desire something, they want to pursue either a physical goal, like they want to get somewhere, or it's an existential goal. It's something emotional or in their mind. So I think without recognizing that and like literally like writing it on a piece of paper so you're aware of what the core desire is of your film, and it can even be a short piece of cinema, it can be an ad, without knowing that, I think, yeah, you're right that it can be left without meaning. And then the audience is to assume what is going on. And then that's just where you get into kind of this race to the bottom that I feel like we're in right now, which is, are my shots more beautiful? Or then what people do is they recognize that their little 30-second or minute video that they're putting together in any capacity, whether it's a professional ad or just on their like YouTube channel, they'll look at it and go, oh, it needs something more. So they'll just add voiceover.
Yeah.
And they'll just like talk about things that are like big and grandiose. And, if you just made like beautiful images, if you went out, and I'm talking cinematically in the film world, and you forgot to pursue the core story elements, then just embrace that. Like don't try and reshape it because your content that you've captured isn't what it needs to be, and so you need to let it be what it was, which was just beautiful images.
Okay, very interesting what you said about desire, and I wonder. I understand that every type of video, commercial here, YouTube video there, has different purpose. But in your in your point of view, the desire part, are videos more inclined or should satisfy the desires of the viewers, or rather create the desires?
Good question. Yeah, it's. I'll have to think because we're talking about so many different formats of video
Right.
right now, and so when I'm making a documentary film, whether it be a short or a long one, I have a complete different process than when I'm making one of my YouTube videos. And
Given.
with one of my YouTube videos, I'm always just thinking, what's the problem I'm solving here? What's the question I'm asking here? And so I'm doing a video this week, which is about miking in the wind. So I'm like, how do you mic in the wind? I'm like, I just finishing off a film about tornadoes. We had to have mics in the highest degree of wind. So how did we do that? So, yeah, that's still a question, and that creates a desire of like, yeah, I want to know how he does that. So, I mean, there is that core principle, but I think that the actual exploitation of those theories goes in differently for the different films. I think that's where you have to ask about your audience. And your audience, if you're just going for a niche audience, they already innately have the desire built in. Like if I'm going to make a film about BMX, like mountain bike riding, the audience that I'm going for already innately desires to know more and to see more content around that. And so, but if you're trying to reach a broader audience, which I think we should be most of the time, you need to create the desire in them. And that's
Yeah.
where, there's a lot of things that we talk about in our course in Academy, Art of Documentary. We're always reiterating the idea that uncertainty is currency. And what that currency is you're purchasing your audience's attention. And so if you create a film about a certain topic, if you're like, we have a lot of people who want to go after certain topics, like, I want to make a film about climate change or about why you should be a vegan. If you don't create uncertainty around that, if you come in and just your film states all the facts off the top and says, we've solved the issue, here's going to be the information about that issue, and here's why, you need to listen. There's no uncertainty. It's like, okay, it's clear your film already knows the answers, and now I just have to sit here through this Wikipedia article, essentially, that you've made with beautiful images that's attached to it, and sometimes not so beautiful. But if you can create a question at the beginning of your film, whether it's YouTube or a documentary, that question then, what is a question? Well, it needs an answer. And so the answer is the uncertainty, and that's the currency. And so you have to continually be creating the question and reminding the audience the question and then slowly seeding the answer. And I think what's the most fun filmmaking is when, if you, as a filmmaker, go in with an honest perspective and that you say, like, I actually want to know the facts. I actually want to interview both sides here. That is a way more interesting journey than if you just have a strong thesis and you're like, I'm just going to prove my point with this film. Because then you just make propaganda. Because then you're intentionally leaving out the other side's perspective. And then as an audience member, I feel that I'm just being fed certain answers, and there is no uncertainty. But if you can pose the question and I have to actually like wonder and think, and I watched the questions in different people in the film debating that, or the main character not knowing, and then we can get to having a main character in a film and why that's so important. But yeah, I think uncertainty, just to reiterate that, uncertainty is currency. Like that is really what makes a powerful story for me.
When does uncertainty becomes clickbait? Because it sounds like they're like a thin red line,
When it's I know I want to answer that genuinely because you're asking great questions. I think uncertainty becomes clickbait when two things. One, when it's not actually the question that your film is exploring.
Yeah.
When you're like I don't know, I'm giving $1 million away, you'll be surprised what happens next. And then like that doesn't happen. Then it's
unless you're Mr. Beast, then literally
unless I know exactly. That's why he would actually be doing that. But he builds a whole film around one concept and one question. He'll like, I heard him on a podcast on Lex Fridman, and he was mentioning like, oh, they killed this idea, but it was like one genius versus 100 people. Like that's a question. Like what happens? Like who's smarter? Like 100 normal people or like one genius? And I don't know how you would quantify that or go about that battle, but that's why he creates uncertainty with his thumbnails and with his titles and with the whole experience, and that's why you want to watch it. And he doesn't plan his shoots all that much because he really he plans them out, but he doesn't know the result. So that's like he's on the adventure with you, and that's why it's so fun. So there is that tension, especially in documentary, of over planning and under planning. But if you already know the ending of your film and you're retelling a whole story, then you have to move through the film as if you don't know the answers. Like the audience has to feel that they don't know, that the film doesn't know how everything's going to turn out. Because then, like I remember once I was in theater a long time ago. I used to be like, I can't call myself a stage actor, but in high school, I was part of a really cool theater production called Zemo and Fuf to Spacetronauts. It was about two clowns that go to space, literally, and it was so fun. The first few performances were total flops. They went terrible. They like audience wasn't laughing. It was just painful. Like we rushed through them, and I remember one of our like Ian, I think believe it was, pulled me aside and said, Mark Bone knows the script. And you're like, and what we saw on stage was Mark Bone rushing through the script. He goes, but Zemo, my main character, this clown, Zemo doesn't know the script. He's living this script out. Mm-hmm. He's like, so like when you get up on stage tomorrow, he's like, the audience has to feel that this is the first time you've gone through everything. You have to discover what's happening on, like, you have to, and that's like the magic of acting is discovery and not actually revealing that you know what's going to happen next, that the audience actually feels that life is unfolding.
How does it correlate to your YouTube videos? How many of them are closer to the documentaries where you just record stuff happening and then sort of edit afterwards to create the story, and how many of them are pre-planned, more like an ad that you have sort of the whole storyboard ahead of you?
That's a great question, and I really pour myself into my films. You know, I'll spend like a year working on them, and so I feel like for me, I've kind of kept my my YouTube channel more so as a place where I get to then discuss that process, that like what we've done, and that's why we have Art of Documentary as well, and we love talking about the creation process and how that all goes. And so that's why like in AOD we have like 150 videos. We're probably going to be 200 videos by March 13th this year with another editing course we've added to it. And so when I go about those, I'm more so just breaking down. Literally sometimes we'll just show behind the scenes footage of our films and be like, here's how we approach this. This is what this looks like this is what we were thinking in this moment. But to come back around, my YouTube videos, perhaps they could be more documentary based. But I find as an artist, I'm highly, I'm very intense and obsessive when I begin to get into my craft, which is documentary storytelling. So to put the pressure on my YouTube channel to have that same intensity, I think I would burn out. Now we've broken down our business model. We have our films, then we talk about our films on our YouTube channel, and then we go really into the depth on how to create that film in our Art of Documentary course. And then that helps fund our films. So we have more of like a triangle-based model in that sense, that there's 3 separate entities that all are similar and working together. But there is something to be said about if you can find, like they say, when your schedule and your passions align, that's true fulfillment as an artist. And so when you can try and align those more often. Like when I left film school, I wrote down on in my journal, like, I'm a documentary filmmaker telling untold stories. Like my whole thing was I wanted to find stories that were hidden, that hadn't been spoken about yet.
How would you describe yourself now? Who are you now in contrast to that?
No, I would say I'm the same person.
Same person.
With maybe a comma that says, and helping others do the same. Like, yeah, truly, I would add that comma, and helping others do the same is like, it's why I'm so grateful that I've stumbled into AOD, the Art of Documentary that we run, because it's not only do I just love my team that I get to work with, but we have over 4,000 filmmakers in it, and we're watching them tell these incredible stories from all walks of life, from all different avenues of the world, and that's been really, really cool. And just as fulfilling as making my own films is watching others succeed. And so, I mean, that's one thing. If someone's listening, like, sometimes your success, your fulfillment in life isn't necessarily going to be hinging on your own accomplishments, but it might be helping some others reach theirs. And that is a great feeling. That it really is. Like, and if it's not a great feeling seeing others succeed, I think you really need to pause and do some personal inventory, because if you don't enjoy watching others succeed, then you might have a scarcity mentality. You might be scared and fearful that you won't have the opportunity to succeed yourself. And either you're doubting yourself too much, or it might just mean that you're not putting the work in, because, if you put the work in, success can happen. No, it's a vague expression, like put the work in and success can happen. But I find often when I'm jealous of what other people are doing, I have to pause and be like, well, they just spent a year doing that thing. Have I? No, I haven't. Okay, so I don't have the place to be jealous. They did the work. They did the work. So I should be inspired by that work.
All right, you mentioned AOD, so let's talk about it. But let's start at the beginning. Tell me how a filmmaker becomes first online creator and then educator as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely have to thank Mattia Poya. He bugged me for a good year to start a YouTube channel, because he had started his, and we had been working with each other a lot. He would often come out and DP on like these commercials I was shooting. And then he even at one point was like, do you want to start a YouTube channel together? And I was like, that's a dumb idea. I won't do it. I was more so afraid that it would hurt my persona as a director. He went and created Travel Fields, which eventually became Mattia Poya, and that did really well. And I'm really grateful for how much he pushed me. He kept saying, like, you got to start a channel. Like, no one's talking about documentary. Like, you could do it so well. And I really doubted myself. And I've told the story many times, but I like created the channel in my condo, and I made like maybe 3 or 4 videos and never released them, because I worked on them and made them to the point that they were really good. And I wanted to know, before I brought this to the world, it goes back to the passion thing. I was like, do I enjoy this? Because I'm not going to go put this in front of people if I'm not enjoying this. And after a few months of just building these videos and no one watching them, I'm just sitting on my hard drive, literally only me, I was like, oh, I actually do enjoy this. Like, I do enjoy talking. Like, as you probably have experienced on this podcast already, like, I just enjoy, I enjoy just thoughts. Like, I enjoy just thinking thoughts and working through them. And I'm the type of person where I don't really think before I speak. So you and I are both enjoying this conversation in the same way, that I don't really know what's coming out of my mouth next. But I do know whatever I say last is usually what I believe most, because I'm verbally processing. But with that, I was like, okay, I enjoy talking. No one's talking about documentary. I see a lot of bad films out there. And I think every good entrepreneur or every good startup business is solving a real problem. And the problem I saw out there was a glut of information online about cameras and not all that much about storytelling. And so I'm really, you can go back to my first YouTube video, and I'm like, I'm going to talk about making doc films. I'm going to take you on the adventure of making my films, and we're going to build this together. Something like that. I had like 3 points, and I'm still kind of doing that.
I saw that video, and
you did?
Yeah, of course. I do my research, and I was immediately struck how natural you were. Like, usually when you scroll back to the first YouTube video in any creator, it's cringy most of the time. Yours was not. So with what you said, I'm very interested to know which video, the first one on your YouTube channel, which one was it when you're actually in your recording in your hard drive? Was it like number 4, number 1, or number 10 that you felt was good enough to be your first YouTube video?
I did one where I went out and I spoke about how a tampon commercial helped me land a Nike commercial.
Now that creates uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a few moments in it where I just got to be a bit goofy. And if anyone knows me personally on a day-to-day basis, like, I'm just a total goof. Like, and it's so funny having this internet persona where sometimes people from Art of Documentary will meet me at film festivals and they're like, wow, you're not as serious as I thought. I think it was in that middle of that video. I could probably bring it down to one moment. Is I was on a bench and I realized I was really far from the camera. So I just grabbed, it was like an aluminum bench. I just grabbed it and pulled myself towards the camera, and I just went, whee! And I just like, I had fun. And I remember like editing it, and I was like, oh, that's fun. And I kept it in. And then I was like, yeah, I was like, this is cool. Like, I feel like I'm on these commercial sets and I have to be like the director, and like, like there's such high budget sets, I think that's just where I was like, oh, YouTube is going to be a fun experience for me to learn how to be myself more, because I'm literally being myself in front of the world, call it, the world has access to that. Like, It's not necessarily like the world's watching my videos. It'd be great if we had more views, but like, it will always take more views. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And what I always think with everything, like, in relationships in life, for the most part, if it's going to be a serious relationship, romantically, business, with a client, is like work, go around the sun once, like go through every season, go around the sun once. Like there's sometimes you'll know a relationship's toxic and you need to get rid of it right away. But if you're like serious about something, if you're like, I really want to know if I want this part of my life, like, go around the sun once. What I mean is just a year. Like there's something beautiful about the centrifugal force of ripping around the sun. And so you come back around that and then you decide. So for my YouTube channel, I was like, I'm going to do this for a year. And then I want to know, I'll make a decision. But I put some like arbitrary things. I was like, if I don't have 100,000 subscribers, then I'm going to quit. Like I gave myself some goals. And I think a year passed by and I either had like 8,000 or 18,000. The number 8's in there, but I know it definitely wasn't over 20,000. Whatever it wasn't like crazy big. But I remember just like sitting there and being like, oh, I didn't hit my goal. Like I think I'd missed my goal by like 75% then. And like, let's call it just 25,000. I was like, okay, like I didn't do that well or against that goal, but I'm really having a good time. And I'm like, this is actually opening up some crazy doors I never realized. So it was kind of from that point on that I was like, no, I'll keep doing this. And then the pandemic happened soon after, and that really blew open the doors on the channel. And then we created the Art of Documentary in about 6 months into the pandemic, and kind of rest was history in that way. And now slowly my economy was always commercials, YouTube, and then I had this random course, and now it's really like, my main business is the course, but my passion is still doc filmmaking. Like what's so beautiful is that there's pressure on me to have to continue to create films if I'm going to be teaching what I would like to think is the world's best documentary academy.
Can you tell me how you look at your YouTube channel right now versus maybe how you looked at it when you started? What I mean is, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that you do feel this pressure right now that you never felt before, that you need to be better, create more courses, not courses, but create more content, better content. How do I do this? And is this fun that you had for the first year or two a little bit shifted because maybe YouTube became like a sales channel and that's where the pressure is coming from?
Yeah. If it's only ever ad reads and sales, that's not that fun. And then it's like I left commercials because I felt like YouTube was so fun. So I'm trying to get back to that, and then integrating the ad reads or everything within that world of fun. Because if I'm not having fun making the videos and I'm not having fun watching them after we've edited them, the audience isn't either. So it's been like this quick little reformation I'm having at the beginning of this year, where I was like, let's put all this like the sales structure, like let's think about the videos we're doing, because we really do, like, I'll never apologize for talking about Art of Documentary. Like I really can't, because to me, I'm doing a disservice to my audience. And I'm not saying that in a self-serving way, because it is like our business, but the amount of testimonies that we get out of Art of Documentary and the emails I get, and people literally, I had a guy buy a piece of gear off us from Art of Documentary, came to the door and he was in tears. He was just like, I just need you to let you know like how much this course has changed my career. Like, and so hearing that, like we just put it out there, we're like, we're going to put all the knowledge that we've had from our careers, what works best for us, and really simplify it, put it into like a deep dive, but digestible videos. And we're just like, how would we want to interact with a course? So it's like, I don't want to sit through 8 hours a day. It's like, I'll let people watch it whenever they need to. So we just built it to what we liked, and people really enjoyed it. And we are watching our students get into film festivals, landing broadcast deals, like getting 6-figure contracts for their retainer clients. That's been so fun. So that's where I'm like, now I feel like a disservice if I don't talk about it. But people don't know that because they haven't experienced it. So it's like, how do you then talk about something you believe in a way that's still fun and engaging, and that's enticing for people? And so that's where I that's the place we're at right now. And so, we have some fun stuff we're going to be releasing in the next few weeks, but that's been a new challenge. And so rather than looking at it as an annoyance, I have to look at it as a new challenge. And so whenever you level up, if you want to grow your business, how do you come back to that first love? Like, how do you come back to that place where you still feel that magic, that excitement? And so, I don't have a formula for that. But I would say like sometimes you just got to make a video for the sake of enjoying it. It's like, even if it doesn't do well, if it's good for you. But then also too is there's this weird thing in YouTube where I've seen it. I've coached people in this, and then I've been even experiencing it myself. Is you'll just keep going back to the videos that worked for you once upon a time, but like our way we interact with each other now isn't like the old days of TV where it's like a formula would always work, and if you just added new color to the formula, like new characters or new setting, the formula would work. But it's not that the formula doesn't work, but the format changes so frequently with the algorithm, with AI, with these things. So me making long form content on YouTube right now, it's like I'm really having to admit it might not be where all of our best access is, or I really need to continue to think about how is this going to be the best long form content.
And I'm interested to know whether the idea for AOD or some sort of educational content around documentaries came first and the audience came second, with the purpose of building an audience to create this educational content, or it was rather I have an audience, I see people having a need, and I would like to fulfill it with the educational content.
No. Every good business is solving a problem, and I put out a little questionnaire. Like, again, I've learned how much data from your audience, like real data, and listening to it is important. So I put out a little questionnaire on my community tab on YouTube. This is when my channel had 8,000 subscribers. I just said, hey, if I created a documentary course, A, would you want it if it was free? B, would you want it if it was paid? Or C, don't care. And I got like 900 responses almost, and 98 of them was yes, and then 50% of those was yes if it's free, and then the other 50 was yes, I would pay for it. And so I was like, okay, so I already have I have this like people who want this product. I go, and I feel like I could convince a bunch of these people who like when I say convince, I could show them the value proposition. I could show them the value of the course. So then I just was like, okay, I'm going to make a course. And it was a year later that I really started on it as things go. And because not every good idea you have do you need to do immediately, or that you need to do at all. But this was an idea I couldn't get out of my brain. And so, yeah, I just started writing a course, and it went from there. But so I didn't really know the goal of YouTube. I just knew that, eventually it could maybe perhaps start making me money. And so I was, it was just like, let's add one more stream of income into my world, so that, you're more robust the more streams you have, because as one dries up, perhaps another will be flowing a bit more.
So can you share how your streams of income look these days, where the majority comes from, how it splits?
For sure. It used to be the majority was my commercial work, where that's just a small percentage, very, very small. The majority would be, I do like, I would start from the top of what's biggest. I'm just guessing, and then kind of go down. Art of documentary would be the biggest. The next would probably be ad reads in my YouTube channel. Then the next might be stock video and those sort of deals. And then affiliates like Amazon or other brands that I'm working with. Then might be, depending the year, it really depends the year, then will be my directing. Like some years my directing, if I'm doing passion projects, it's like nothing. But then if people are hiring me out, then I'm getting paid a lot more per project, And so then you can make like a full salary as a director. So it depends the year, right? Like 2 years ago, between all the docs, because I've been hired to direct a lot of documentaries that year, like that was a huge part of my income, and that was great. But I also don't put the pressure in my business model that I have to make money from my films, which is great, because then I can make any sort of film I want and just put it out there. So then there's the directing, and then there's all the rest of the little things, whether it's like, picking up a gig here or there, or renting out, gear like I used to. I don't know. There's so many like little randoms. There's AdSense. I don't even pay attention to the AdSense. It's so minimal.
But AOD is clearly number one. So you make a living out of this right now. So how does the process go? How long did it take you to get there? Did you also have to stick around for a year with that before making profit, or it was because of your audience
No,
almost immediate success?
it was, we didn't have to invest much. We already had the gear, we already had the
Mhm.
knowledge, we already had editors on salary. We just paid like, $6,000 up front to a marketing company that had done courses before that just could help us. They had a whole process. Um, I think it's called Expert at Scale. They're really great people, and they helped us. Like, you're gonna need a website, you're gonna need to talk about it ahead of time on these little things I just would not have done. And so that was really helpful, and that was worth every dollar of that, because we still implore or use some of their teaching models. So no, AOD was profitable right out of the gate.
What is the most important element of creating a course?
The most important is that when people are inside, it actually helps. Like,
Mhm.
it does what it hits the value proposition and goes further than it. When I say the value proposition is what we try to use, that rather than like just the word advertising or like call to action, is we believe that our product has value and will increase the value of someone's career. Like, and so we're whenever we create content, I'm someone of faith, so I run it through the two greatest commandments. Is just what we tell our team is like, there's love your Lord God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. So for us, like, whether you're a Christian or not, like, is your personal life intact? Like, are you, as a team member, part of AOD, are you finding, is that your faith or is that your meditation, whatever it is? Like, take control of that, because how can we go out and help others if we haven't helped ourselves? Then the second is love your neighbor as yourself. So whenever we hit record, that's in our brain saying, how is this helping someone? Would I want to be the person on the other side of this information? Like, if what I'm saying right now, the words leaving my mouth, if I was that person, could I actually apply to my life or my career, and would that actually help? And if we don't feel it is that, if I wouldn't want the advice I'm saying, we don't say it. So what's great is it makes our videos really simple. As we create 3 points, and then we just create 3 points and then ask ourselves, is this actually going to help someone? And so, I would say the most important part of the course to tie that all together is it actually going to help someone? Like, don't just
Mhm.
talk for the sake of talking. You're wasting people's time. Like, you're literally wasting resources on this earth. You're putting data on a hard drive that was mined from some mine. It's like, just don't talk for the sake of talking. Like, believe in what you're saying. And so that would be the most important thing. And then the second most important is what's your value proposition? Like, have you addressed a pain point for an audience, and do they know that your product actually solves that pain point? And again, does it solve that problem?
How big the pain point has to be? Like, art of filmmaking or even art of making documentaries, it's a very wide subject. So did you try straight up to just make a complete masterclass on all things documentaries and filmmaking, or you rather narrowed it down at the beginning and now build up upon it?
Not every module can go into all of the depth. So what we do is we're really attentive to where our students are in that course, and we look at the pain points that they keep bringing up. And then we're either able to create more content inside that course, or what we've recognized is, like, we're going to be doing a whole producing course this summer, because we've realized that is a big unknown. Like, no one's really done great, like the producing like content. And your audience on this podcast is the first to know about that we're going to be doing that, and we're working with some amazing experts.
How do you price a course like that?
Oh, we're way underpriced. Yeah.
You probably could earn more, charge more.
Yeah.
How did you decide on the specific pricing, and are you growing it or planning to grow it, like with the next
Yeah,
cohort
no,
coming in?
every launch goes up like 5% in price.
Mhm.
It just has to. Inflation. We're adding more people to our team. We keep adding more things to our course that we're not
Mhm.
charging for. So inherently the price has to go up. And it's also, I want to signal to people that, like, this is valuable. And so I keep getting people commenting on my YouTube channel or on our social media platforms being like, oh, I can't afford it right now. I hope one day. And I'm just like, you can't afford not to. And it says less about our course and more so, I think, people's relationship with money.
Mhm.
And that's sad to me, that people feel like hoarding their money when it comes to investing into themselves will get them further, which it's like, I don't know, tighten up in some other areas, go sell a lens and buy the course, because like that extra lens sitting in your kit's not going to, your client won't care, but your client will care if you know how to tell their story. Because the craft of documentary, it started with like Nanook of the North. Like it started with like a filmmaker following an interesting person.
Yeah.
Like, but these docs are like just shot all in studio, and it's just kind of like they get incredible DPs to go shoot recreations. And like, yeah, like some of my film for CNN about 58 hours about this girl getting rescued out of a well. We did it. We did just interviews with a lot of the characters, but then I made sure to put them out, take them back to the location. Like we used all the archival footage we could ever, and we reshot all these. Like we tried to make it more of a film as much as we could. So I understand when you're retelling a story. Like I really put it this way, I really loved Night Stalker. That was a really incredible Netflix series. But the way that was shot, I really felt like I was watching it unfold, and that filmmaker did an incredible job to actually like bring us on that journey. But I don't know. I feel weird just criticizing such a big brand. Netflix has done great things for documentary, but I'm worried that because they work to an algorithm like YouTube, their art is being controlled by analytics rather than the actual craft. And I might be romanticizing this, and I understand they have a business model, but I think that's also like a lot of people are leaving that platform right now, and I worry about it because it's like it used to be a really beautiful place for independent doc filmmakers to bring their work. And so I don't say this to hate on Netflix, but saying like maybe there's a renaissance for that could happen if we begin to promote and fund those great films like Navalny. That was a great film.
You mentioned algorithms, and that I think beautifully ties into the short form that is overtaking us. I think on one of your stories on Instagram, you mentioned that you don't trust TikTok. I think that was the line.
I just said that.
And then you had a reel about Instagram as well, how of a attention sucker it is, and you started it like it being a beautiful platform for video and pictures at the beginning, and now became just a endless mindless scroll. How do you look at this content from the sort of professional perspective? How much of art can you do in such a format versus how much is just basically a hook and not a story that even ever goes anywhere?
The algorithm likely will change again soon. So to have to feel locked in to talk about the same, like, I have some friends right now who are bragging, I did 14 reels this week. And it's like, that's awesome. Like that's really like, that is an accomplishment. Like that's a lot of work, but we don't ever want to get caught into quantity over quality. We kind of want our content to remain evergreen. And again, it comes back down to like, are we loving our neighbor as ourselves? Like I know that sounds like such a virtue signal or so altruistic, but does this content, like, could someone return to this in 3 years from now and it still helps them?
Even Reels and TikToks, you look at it the same. Like I always look at them as something that has, a shelf life of 24 hours and that's it. Then the impressions stop.
Yeah, well, I don't really look at that stuff that much. Like when I look at a reel, I'm like, does this help? And so, yeah, that's probably why we're not like viral successes, but our business model isn't about like getting lots of tiny little cents per view. Like we have this strong, really big product in the back end with Art of Documentary. So I'm not too stressed on that, but I might not be the expert to talk about that stuff because I don't spend a whole lot of energy focusing on the algorithm as much as I do on the content. And it might just be because I literally have a limited amount of time. Like I have my days now chunked into like 2-hour blocks, and I need to protect some of those 2-hour blocks, not to just study the algorithm, but to be, calling up people in different countries and journalists for researching my next films.
So what is the business model? Where does the most of the clients for AOD come from?
I mean, it all comes through, well, not all, but more so, I don't know what percentage. The majority of it, though, would come through my YouTube. Like, that's like, I have 200, and at this time of this video is just over 210,000 subscribers. And so it's focusing on still continuing to create good content on there that helps people. And then also that points them, if they want to go deeper, they can come over to AOD. And yeah, so that's the business model right now. And then, you know, we've never spent $1 on advertising, and I'm
Mhm.
proud of that because it says that we can focus on creating content that people actually want to watch, and then in turn we, you know, suggest like, hey, check out our documentary. Maybe once in a while I get people complaining about that, but I'm not too worried because they're not our customer. If you really think that me talking about AOD is like a bad thing, then you don't know enough about it. And maybe it's my fault for not explaining it well enough. But I also think like if you think like a documentary course is so annoying, then it's like you're probably not our customer.
How do you balance the amount of pitching for the course that you do and versus the content or the the enjoyment part of making a video?
Yeah, I don't know. Talk to me in a few months from now. I'll know after our next launch because we're actually in that right now, and I had a discussion
Okay.
with our team, and so yeah, it's that is always it's just figuring that out. That's where we're at right now, truly. And I don't want to just I can talk about where I'm at. I don't want to give advice on it because I don't know if I have it. But again, it's like coming back to like if we're not having fun, they're not having fun.
Uh-huh.
So why don't we talk about AOD in a fun way? And so yeah, we have an insane giveaway coming out in the next week or two. I just got all the pieces of equipment for it. It's like we're building out our yeah. I don't want to say too much until the video is released, but it'll. I'm excited about that because it's stuff that I really like using, and so to get to give away that to that would be really cool. So yeah, you can even see I'm smiling because that video is going to be really like I can't wait to do that video. So I know the audience is going to love that video.
You mentioned a team. How many of you are there? How many people takes to run this show?
Yeah, you know we have a lot of contractors, but the core team would be like 5 of us, as in like pretty much 5 people who work nearly full time. We're not all quite full. Like it's not every hour of every day. You know, I would say we all work maybe about 3 days a week on AOD, 2 to 3 days a week. But that's Michael Del Monte. He's the co-founder of AOD and an incredible feature film director. He's done like 4 or 5 feature docs. Then we have Kim Dabrowski. She's been with me for like I think about 3 years now, and she's just amazing at running our community. She's just such a beautiful person inside and out, and how she just like loves on every person. So it's like she makes every AOD person who comes through the emails and on our community feel known, which is awesome. Like that's like you want people who care, and she really cares.
You mentioned community already twice, I think, and I think it's a really interesting question, if I may.
Yeah.
So I see this shift in online education in general, I think, towards sort of more cohort-based courses where it's not just you're downloading some videos and going at your own pace, but you're actually interacting or working with other people, get inspiration and motivation from them. How important is community in education, online education?
That's huge. We didn't realize how big that would be for AOD, but we now like we even give money. Like we've seen like how just excited our students are to meet each other, and that's been so exciting that they're learning from each other and not just Mike and I, because Mike and I are the face of the course. That we now literally we give our students money to pay for their drinks, you know, whether it be coffee or beer when they go meet up, because we want that to happen. Like because from there they start working on each other's films, they start hiring each other out, and so yeah, we started this little fund. We've had students from around the world, Australia and Vancouver, Canada, and all these places like do these meetups. It's so cool. And that's been like a testimonial that's really come out of the past year of AOD, where people keep saying like, I've not only got a lot out of the course content, but I get just
Yeah.
as much out of the community. And so, you know, it's that old adage, if you want to go fast, go alone, but you want to go far, go together. And so we believe in that. And I think inherently we are community-based people. I think there's a lie that you can live like you're self-made, you live your life. It's like, no, every contribution, even if it was a bad relationship, has motivated you towards that goal.
Do you plan the course now more for collaboration as well? Or how do you engage the community, except for paying for their drinks, of course?
I know. People are just gonna, I think they're just gonna show up to be like, yeah, I heard Mark will buy me a cocktail. I guess I would. But no, we plan it around just like even community-based events, and we
Uh-huh.
do monthly calls We make sure our feedback calls when people are getting feedback happens in a live group setting. That's important because people give advice while Mike does these coaching calls every other week, where if you're part of module 2, you can book a time slot and you get advice for your project. It's really awesome. It's so cool. And we do that with a live audience. It's like, no, we're all journeying our careers together. If there's something private, and we don't record the calls because then people can talk about NDAs and that sort of thing. It is a private, it's not publicly posted. But yeah, we do a lot of things to foster that. In-person meetups, monthly community calls, the bi-weekly feedback calls, and then our Facebook group is crazy. That's like 2,700 filmmakers in that. And they're putting job postings, they're putting rough cuts up there, they're commenting on each other's work. That's been really cool just to see. Like, so many of us say that we wouldn't have. I would delete my Facebook tomorrow if it wasn't for Art of Documentary, because that's just at the best platform for a global community. We're in over 70 countries, so that's where everyone meets.
What are the advantages of online education versus professional, let's say, school education? Even in your case, how would you compare the course that you made to the education that you got yourself?
Yeah, well, nothing ever beats being on set with other people. And that's one thing that film school inherently has an advantage of. Like when I say film school, I mean like a physical school that you attend, is you're going to learn how to interact with other humans. And that's usually part of filmmaking. That used to be the big advantage over Art of Documentary that film schools had, was where like, yeah, if you want to learn how to like physically touch the gear and like interact and collaborate in person, like then you would consider film school. But now that's kind of like, we're doing that now, like we're doing meetups in different cities, and that there is this like encouragement, like we as a team, we've even hired a lot of our students on our films. And then what's really cool is we have AOD Films. This is a whole new division, part of Art of Documentary, where we're funding our students' films and we're hiring only AOD people. So it's like we're creating whole films. And not many film schools fund their students' films, and that's what we're doing. We're getting really amazing brand partners. Physical film school, you're there, and then you also can get like a accredited diploma. We can give certificates. We're not yet an accredited school. We eventually would like to be. That's a goal. We'll partner with a university of some sort. But right now, but then our prices would have to go up. But right now, we feel like we're reaching more people, and I wish there was a way just to reach even more. But that's where we're at right now.
Any goals that you have for the upcoming year?
Yeah, we want to double in size. Well, I would love to be, if we were chatting on this podcast in a year from now, I'd love to be saying that we have 8,000 students. Would love to say that, we have twice as much course content, which at this point, we have all the contracts in place with the right people to get that done. And I would even more than all of that, is I'd love to say that we have 4 or 5 original AOD films like that were entirely shot, produced, edited within the AOD community. So yeah, those are some of the goals. And so just focusing on that. And I would love to say that I didn't get burnt out, that I took enough time off, because I love everything that I do. But the problem is, even, you can love running, but you can run to the point that you get injured. And so I think even with our film careers, it's like, I love filmmaking, but I can continue to be passionate about filmmaking to the point that it doesn't help my own life holistically.
All right. And then there's I'm very much looking forward, what will happen to the YouTube channel? How will that?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to have some banger videos coming out in the next few weeks. So keep an eye. I have a really cool one on frame rates. Those always do well, but I also there's been one question, again, always solving a problem. There's one question that people always ask about frame rates. So I really attacked that question in this next video. And I have a great new editor, Eli, from Nashville, who he's done a great job with that video. But I wanted just to quickly finish off just mentioning the team. There was Landon Metcalf, who runs our content and helps with our marketing. He's so easy to work with. I just love bragging on our team, because I would hang out with every one of our team members just if I just run into them and met them. And I don't know if that's a good business model, just to have people who you consider friends, but I love them. It's like I hang out with our main lead editor, Lewis Gordon, who's creating The Perfect Cut. He's an awesome guy. He's fun to be around. We go play hockey up at his place, and it's like, yeah, so I really love my team. There's so many other amazing contractors that we collaborate with that would take me like an hour to mention all of them. But yeah, some really cool people.
Well, I think I would like to add to that yeah, I think working with friends is a great business.
Yeah.
As long as the business doesn't destroy the friendship. That's where the line is.
Yeah, they say good contracts make better friendships, I think, or strong contracts make great friends. And so we make sure to have contracts with everyone in place to protect that, because there is a huge risk. And I've even noticed that, like, some people who I've hired were like some of my closest friends beforehand. And you have to have that talk. You got to look each other in the eye and just say, as soon as I hire you, this is like adding a new element from the periodic table into our relationship. I'm thinking about relationships that were working. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a tough one, and so you really have to be careful with it. I think there will always be a time, if you're not leaving amicably, that there will be a time where you will draw further apart. But there's a weird thing too in life where some of your friendships are based on the work that you're in or the communities that you're involved in. And so it can feel like that relationship's much closer than it actually is, where once you remove that natural mechanism of meeting up, you're like, oh, I don't actually need to see that person, or I want to see them. So that happens.
Well, we are not friends, and I only known you for the past hour and a half or so, but I am the guy that wants to talk with you again. So I hope that maybe in a year or so, we can do it again, and you can tell us about the experience of doubling your AOD. What do you say?
Yeah, no, that would be fun. That puts pressure on me, but we can come back next year, and I can either talk about why it didn't happen or why it did. So I really hope it's why we did, but it would also be great information for everyone of why it did.
There are lessons everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah, Philip, really appreciate you having me on, and great questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care. And that's another episode done. If I were to take one thing from the conversation with Mark, would be the concept of taking it around the sun once. I love it. And that's actually what we're trying to do with the podcast. We're trying to take it around the sun once and see where it takes us. So if you would like us to take it around the sun a couple more times, please help us out. Comment, share, and most of all, subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.